What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
So I'm going full douchebag, trying to look the part of a guy who wins $1 million.
Oh, okay.
Backwards Killer Bees hat. Killer Bees is a big thing in Nashville, which is where Roto Grinders headquarters is. So it's I'm going for it all.
Okay.
Having said that, I despise all of my lineups.
Well, so I think the most interesting question is what to make of the Houston stuff. Because yes, with Van Vliet out, like all the usage goes to those other guys, but there's like some legitimate like macro risk to this game. You know what I mean? Like that's like it's like this game could be a freaking shit show.
Yes, I want to make a case. The problem I can make a really good case for and against, like the Şengün. Let's start with that, right? Because that's to me the most important piece. Now, at the ownership level that he's going to be at tonight, which we're thinking is going to be around 25, 35 and higher buy-ins, and like 10% in lower buy-ins. That's my personal.
Well, you're talking about Şengün, huh?
And if people are not going to play, so to me, it's just a weighted issue. Do you play him if he's 20% owned, be over the field, which means he probably makes it into one of my two big buy-ins. If he's going to be 40% owned or 30% owned in the big buy-ins, and he's going to steam, then I think you have to fade it. I know that sounds like a small thing, but it's a big difference.
Well, I think we got to talk about all of them. You know what I mean? Like Holiday and Jabari Smith and Jalen Green. I think all four of those guys,
and all four of them on their face, on its face, seem completely fadeable to me, to be honest with you. But that really can't be the way it works unless Kim Whitmore has a game and blowout run. We basically are. If we're going to bet none of those guys get there, we're kind of just predicting a blowout, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm sort of struggling with.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, one thing I will say is that I mean, if you want to play like Jokic, for example, like if he plays, I mean, you got to play like three of those guys almost. I mean, like for that game to be competitive, I mean, they got to really put up a game.
Well, I mean, I don't think you go into this slate trying to play Jokic.
No. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that let's take Holiday for example. Like he might be 50%, and he might be 50%, even though everybody knows that he can bust.
It's like the thinnest value, but it is a later game. In all fairness,
yeah.
In case there's any weird starting lineup stuff, which is mostly where you're going to get your value. It's not going to be from a guy being out. It's on this kind of a slate, it's most likely going to be from a different starting lineup. But it's possible somebody could be out. You never know. Hey, thanks to the happy birthday, guys. Thank you, and good to see everybody. But it's a really tough slate. I like the tough slates. I like the Memphis stuff, unfortunately. And the Houston thing I'm struggling with because it feels like just a spot you automatically check for but like they have a different mindset this year. Jalen Green on a back-to-back, you don't love a jump shooter at 6,800 who barely ever gets it. Sort of like Jordan Poole as a play in general, but he's actually been more efficient. He's been more part of the team. Maybe they just let him go nuts tonight. Maybe he's the simplest answer, and he's going to be popular too. But the thing is, the one I feel safest with is Jabari Smith. If Tari Eason plays, which I think he will, I think Tari Eason is reasonably expected to get 16 to 20 minutes. I think that's what you should expect him. I don't think people should be projecting him over 20 minutes until he plays 20 minutes. And he's projected right about 20. He's a good point per minute guy. You do have I always get them mixed up. Deshaun Tate. But you do have Dylan Brooks in there. But if somehow Tari Eason's out, then that makes all the other value that, later in the day a little bit better. You know what I mean? What's really would happen if Tari Eason's out is and the super large field, you shouldn't be doing this in the 2,500 if you're playing for $1 million. You shouldn't be doing this probably unless you're playing max entries. But Cam Whitmore is probably like the most interesting play on the slate if you're going to predict a blowout, or if Tari Eason is somehow out, because he's a rookie. Literally, without his attitude, probably would have been a top 10 guy, maybe. Hasn't played more than 12 minutes in a game, but when you start eliminating all these pieces, there aren't that many other guys to fill it in. And like, what are we going to bet on Jeff Green on the back-to-back? Are we going to bet on Şengün playing 1 million minutes on a back-to-back? Maybe. He played 42 minutes last time he played against Jokic. It is a personal thing for him, if that makes a difference to anybody. If he really, and if Şengün ends up 10% owned, I don't think I have a choice but to plug him into one of my 2 big buy-ins. I don't care what my logical brain says. It's just wrong. If you're going to project a guy to be the third right now, Saberson has him as the second highest point per dollar player on the slate. Okay, now these are no. But if that guy is going to be 10% owned, you should be playing that guy just in general.
I don't. To go back to your original thesis, I don't see a world where those guys or any of them are less than 20%.
I kind of agree with you. But 20 even, I can deal with.
It's a tough position. I mean,
is it though? Like, I mean, because
it's a tough position with a 14-point spread or whatever the hell it is. You know,
it's weirdly only a 9.5 point spread.
Okay,
and
maybe that means Jokic is sitting.
And even when I bet on Houston before, they didn't win that game, but they were competitive in those games. You know, on those back-to-backs. And Şengün played, and he believed this whole Jokic 2.0 joke that's going around. He and Jokic beat the hell out of each other last time they played each other.
What does this mean? What does that mean, Jokic 2.0 thing?
That's a joke about Şengün, that he's Jokic 2.0. Because he's much bigger and stronger and a little more like quick, obviously. But Jokic is just, you know.
Jokic.
Yeah, he's just the best. So it's kind of disrespectful. But they both seem to take it a little bit personally, to be honest with you.
Well, what do you think? Let's go back to Memphis for a second. Does it? I mean, it bothers me to play Santi Aldama at 30% ownership.
Yeah.
It bothers me to play any of those guys, honestly, at 30% ownership. And
the problem, I totally understand your thinking. The only thing I could poke back with is that, like, we have to play some people.
Yeah.
And these guys, without a doubt, somebody's going to get there for Memphis tonight, like at home. If they get blown out at home here in a game where they're favored, which is shocking in itself, then fine. If they blow somebody out, that would shock me too.
Well, okay. So Desmond Bane, let's take him for example. In a competitive game, what's he really getting? I mean,
55 or 60, possibly.
Possibly. I mean,
perfect matchup. He just put up 60 against them the other day, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he has to get it. You're right. Like, I hear your thinking, but like we have to. This goes back to our true DFS call last night. Sorry, was it Utah? It wasn't the other day, but it was. Yeah, he put 62 up last time they played. It was like, okay, well, these are all the things we shouldn't be doing, and Aaron Holiday and all these things. But what should we be doing then?
Well,
I'll tell you who I like. I like the Clippers guys a little bit. I like Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. I like the idea of maybe running it back a little thin and hoping for a weird piece of late news, because I still don't understand why the Clippers are favored in this game, even without Murray, and that Keegan Murray he didn't play last night either. I don't understand this, man. It feels shaky to me, and I understand it's a back-to-back, and it's an emotional game they played, but maybe it's just overrating the Clippers. But
which is your favorite of them, Harden or Kawhi? Or
I think that Kawhi is my favorite because of the price.
Yeah,
I think Paul George, if I just took a raw numbers, that like I actually think it's a decent spot for Paul George to have a good game. But I think Kawhi then Harden are my two favorites. I actually think the sneakiest play on the slate is Zubac. He's been balling out lately. When they actually play him, he puts up numbers, and this is a perfect matchup to do that.
Well, let's go back to the kind of the pure non-injury related game. How about the Orlando Washington game? Like right from the beginning, because You have Washington, who doesn't play a lot of defense. You have Orlando, who's got some good players. You're missing Markel Fultz, right? So you can make cases for all these Orlando guys. I've heard cases made for Moritz Wagner instead of Goga at lower ownership. That's
both Wagners I think are in play.
Yeah. I don't think I don't know who I would play from. You don't even have to play anybody from the Washington side, but I mean Kuzma always live for a big game. Listen, Orlando's pretty good defensively, obviously, so it's not usual. But I mean these are guys you could play that at the beginning of the day probably were going to be a lot more chalky than they are now.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, will we see something different? Will we see a different starting? I mean, we have McCollum who's supposed to play tonight. Obviously, that's not going to be a big piece of things. But what if somebody different starts for Utah? Like what if all of a sudden Colin Sexton or THT is starting? You know what I mean?
Well, let me throw another thing out there. So they've been starting. Okay, so they've been trying to get Walker Kessler back from injury. They tried something where they played. They started Yurt 7 or something like that, and then Kessler still came in, get 26, 28 minutes or whatever it is. And I don't know exactly what they're going to do tonight, but
I love the Kessler play, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say that if Kessler starts somehow, that's kind of an indication that he could be up for some 30+ minutes tonight. And
even if he doesn't start. It's not like he can't get 40 off the bench. He's done it a million times. He literally, I could show you the game log last year when he didn't start and he had 40 fantasy points off the bench. He does it. Yeah. So I like that play, man. I like that thinking a lot.
But that's the thing. Like you can make a case for so many of these centers. Like you can make a case for Jalen Duran, obviously.
I do have Jalen Duran in all fairness.
Yeah.
I also, and as Nick's asking right now, I have Embiid in one of my big buys.
Do you really?
I also have Nicholas Batum in one of my big buys.
Oh, I can't do that.
I'm just going to explain a little bit of my Batum thing. I mean, yes, he's been hot from 3 and all, whatever. He's getting real minutes in both games that don't matter, and they feel like they love him. He's just like an integral piece. If you think this game state is going to be competitive, which by all logic it should be, he might play 32 minutes and he's 4,200. You don't have that much value. It's also an 8 p.m. Eastern game, so you don't have to lock in right away. And you have a team that's sloppy in New Orleans a little bit, so it increases the steal block upside. 4,200 is a very reasonable price to take a shot on a guy who, Sheets. There's a chance Batum could have been 35% owned. Oh my God, he's already still 17% owned. Jesus. Yeah, it's a tough slate, man. Even my weird cases. I guess you know what the answer is? Maybe play Robert Covington. Maybe that's the answer.
Well, let me ask you. I mean, these are obvious things that we should be watching for. But any news yet on making sure that LeBron plays, or make sure that Durant plays? Not Durant. Kevin Durant plays.
Yeah,
those are two guys that obviously will shape the slate. Not to mention Jokic, for that matter.
What's weird is that Kevin Durant might be more. It's a little more shaky. You know what I mean? It's Devin Booker, sure, but after that, I don't really know that you have an obvious play after Kevin Durant. I think that everyone will go to Nurkic, and I think that Nurkic is a better play at 10%, sub 10% than he is at 25%, just period. And if LeBron, for some reason, is out, which it is the front end of a back-to-back, so it is possible.
And it's Oklahoma City tomorrow. I mean,
it is Oklahoma City tomorrow, and it's a lot of running. If I were the Lakers, I would just try and take a game you should win. But
right. Especially coming off a 40-point loss.
Exactly. But yeah, if LeBron is out, I'm pretty sure AD and Austin Reeves or D'Angelo Russell with AD is what you're supposed to do. But we should know that before lock, right?
Yes.
I'm annoyed, but to see the Kawhi, I'm looking at the projections. That it's pretty interesting how they're shifting without any different movement. It's more just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm showing him as a play. You know what I mean?
LeBron was the third when I started to log in here. He was the third best point per dollar player on the slate. Now I have him as 9th.
Who, Kawhi or
no, LeBron. And Kawhi is 10th.
Yeah,
but like, and Embiid is 11th. So that shows you that there's a lack of value too, which means that you have to play the uncomfortable. So if you play Aaron Holiday, look, I'm probably gonna in my bigger buy-in 1,000 people or less. Sure, I'll play Aaron Holiday with the other guys who like Embiid or whatever. But I don't think your strategy should be in general that you want to play the 50% guy when everyone's going to do that. So like the right idea for larger field, and maybe I'm even wrong. Maybe I should include it into this field sheet. You're welcome to weigh in. But like I'll play Batum. I'm playing Holiday also. I have Holiday in one of my big ones and Batum in the other one. I actually think it's probably right to either play them together or not do something like that. But I think that if you're going to try to get to Embiid, you have to. So I don't mind. Embiid and Batum don't really take away from each other that much negatively. It's just a little bit of rebound equity. That's pretty much it. I don't know. I like the idea of playing like just straight up. I like the idea of playing Batum at no ownership versus Holiday. But maybe you play them both in those lineups. I'm just trying to think out loud here because I just don't think it's right to play the exact obvious thing. Like I can tell you what the lineups are going to spit out for you. It's going to be some combination of Gafford, Jaren Jackson, Holiday, probably LeBron or one of LeBron, Kawhi, or Banchero, probably two of those three. And then it'll middle out with like, the Jabari Smiths, Santi Aldamas, Jaden Ivey. Maybe it's worth it to just take the extra chance to do the stars and scrubs and just take the chances on the scrubs, but not like play Holiday. Like what I was saying is like maybe play Holiday with Batum and with Tari Eason, which is very thin if he even plays. But if you play all three of those guys together, that's just even with the fact they're all going to be owned, they're not all going to be owned together that much. Then you play Embiid at supposedly low ownership. We'll see. I don't necessarily buy it. And then you still have over 6K or around 6K left to spend on each position. So maybe you throw in one extra value with Derrick Rose.
Yeah. What do you think about Derrick Rose?
I think there's upside. I think that like early in the day, he looked like you have to play one of he or Gilliard because the way the projections were shifting.
Okay.
I don't agree with that. I do have that currently, but like I'm going to change it after we get off. But I think there's upside for Derrick Rose, and I think there's upside for Gilliard. Doing it in the 2,500 is going to be a tough one. I probably end up with Derrick Rose in one and none of Gilliard. But if it was a normal night with like a 330, let's say it was like a 333 night, I was just playing two lineups, probably would have one of each. I don't think they're going to keep running Bane at the point. Like I just don't. So I think that you're looking at least 24 minutes or 48 minutes divided out between them. And I think you get minutes together. So I think they could each play like 27, 28 minutes. I don't think I'd play them together, but I would pick one and put what, like I'd split them up.
Playing any Biyombo?
I think that's the one I didn't get to initially, but I probably am going to. Yeah. But I think like Walker, like, come on, man. Like Biyombo gets to 30 tonight. Great. 5,200, 30. There's like a weird chance that Walker Kessler puts up like 50. You know what I mean? It's possible.
What's Kessler's price?
59. He's higher. But isn't that worth like gambling on?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think that median projection's a joke.
I think the idea of playing Kessler and Gafford together is interesting.
That's interesting.
Because then you just lock up the position with 59, 50, 58, 50, average. And you have two guys who can both put up 40. I worry a little bit for Washington to stay close here. I actually bet Orlando minus, I think it was -9.
What am I doing with Aaron Holiday?
If you're scripting, I would say be below the field. unless you're going to be above the field on one guy that's like really going to be low owned as a bit, like maybe Embiid. If you were going to be like 40% Embiid, then you could play him a lot. But if you don't really love any of those big guys enough to do that, I would probably be below the field. And saying that, I'm going to have him probably. He's definitely very likely to be in one of my 2 large buy-ins until we find out he's not starting, like, or something like that. He's similar to Justin. Like these Holiday brothers are all similar. But the difference is like Aaron can create and do things, another UCLA guy, but he's not going to be asked to do that, with the situation.
No.
He's going to be asked to stand in the corner and play defense.
That's not a good recipe for success at 35% ownership or 40% ownership.
It's really not, man.
Well, it's certainly worth a late swap decision, depending on how you're doing in other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's partly why maybe I became a little bit like the Kawhi, Malik Monk, and then I honestly have Tice in a couple lineups just to have like some exposure so I can have swappability with a 3-man later on, in case by 6 p.m., let's say it comes, or 9 p.m. Eastern, it comes around that Aaron Holiday is not starting or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
We'd like to have a Holiday in that lineup. That's what I mean. Holiday with those 3. You can sort of shift around and play around a little bit.
So I have a dumb question. So what price is Daniel Gafford?
5,800.
And he's the same price as Kessler, for example?
Yeah, so that was why I like the idea of playing them together.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a
Franz Paolo run back.
I mean, it's definitely a slate where you want a late swap.
For sure. And look, we really need the LeBron news. I actually thought for like at the beginning of the day, I was like, oh, he's definitely going to play. Like, come on, this is ridiculous. But now I'm actually.
You're not so sure, huh?
No, I'm really not so sure. But I'm happy that it's a later. I'm sorry, I'm both happy and unhappy because I would on a site like this, taking a chance would be worth everything, and that would be the best chance to take. Play Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves, who are both fine anyway. They can get there even if LeBron plays. Maybe even throw in another guy because.
Well, I have the lowest stress, like big buy-in lineup right now.
Really?
Because I don't have to. Because it's almost certainly not going to be the same by the end of the night. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Like I don't right now. I don't have anybody. I don't have anybody in the first 3 games right now.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's what I have right now.
I've got Jaden Ivey.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah, and I've got Franz Wagner and Banchero split up.
Totally. I mean, like all those are good plays,
Yeah, I'm just giving away my guys. Like that's what I'm doing. I still think Banchero and Wagner are a little bit. They're just very reasonable for.
Yeah.
I don't feel like worried about them, except for I do worry a little bit about a blowout. And I think that this should be like. I think this should be the Magic minus like 14, and I think it's minus 10 now. It was minus 9.5 earlier when I bet it.
What, you gonna do anything with Jonathan Isaac?
He's probably going to put up like 25 fantasy points in like 14 minutes. I don't know, man. I just can't do that on the first game. Honestly, if they were playing the Lakers, he'd be like in both of my big buy-ins right now. If they were playing in LA, you know?
Right.
Because there's so much you can just, okay, I'll shift over. Then I'll play the Aaron Holiday. I'm doing well. But I can't do it on the first game of the night. I don't think. He's out. Is Isaac out officially?
Was that right?
Who's hearing out? Tell us who's out, guys. You guys are doing a great job. We appreciate it, but just let us know which one we're saying. Isaac is out now. Okay. I didn't have that. For some reason, that Isaac news, I guess it came on.
Now he evaded me somehow.
It evaded me as well.
So what does that mean?
It's just better. It's just a little bit better for everybody. I mean, it's still Paolo.
Back out. I had him in 3 lineups, so okay, that's good.
It's good for Goga and Mo Wagner. I think one of those two now becomes like a very strong play. I don't know which one. My guess would be Mo Wagner based on this game. I also think Batatse could go nuts. And I think it's a little bit good for Washington to maybe keep it a little bit closer. A little tiny little boost. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. You guys got it. I appreciate that one. Even though it's not like direct.
So Anthony Black is starting?
Yeah, but he's been – I mean, we've seen this so many times. It's just like what does it really mean? The minutes don't – he doesn't necessarily play any minutes. He hasn't hit – he had 22 fantasy points in one game this season. He started like 7-8 games at least.
Right.
It's Cole Anthony's, off the bench, but like, and no one wants to play him at this price, but like, Sheets, you've watched this guy play before, and this is the matchup where would it be surprising at all if he put up 50? No.
Right.
He's like kind of the genius. If you're going to play chalk, play Cole Anthony in a lineup.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's can do it. Like, I know there might be some projection on it, but it's a tough pull at 6,700. Probably going to be like more owned in low buy-ins and definitely hit. You know what I mean? And he won't be in my.
I wonder if Goga and Wagner really just get a lot more ownership because of that Isaac being out.
I actually think they should, though. So I guess it's a good question, because if they don't, then we pivot. You know what I mean? Like that. I already have a little bit of Mo, but I'd be very happy to. I'm just curious what's going to do with the projections. I'm going to go in 4 minutes, by the way. I'm just giving a heads up. Oh, Mo Wagner, look at that. Shot up the list already.
He did, right?
Yep. And I think it makes sense, too. You have literally the perfect player to play against Washington. And he gets the blowout run, too, you'd think, unless they decide to let Batatse stay out there for some reason. Both he and Batatse are pretty good plays. It's the truth. You could do like a Mo Wagner, Walker Kessler, and Gafford type of thing, because you have Wagner with the power forward eligibility. I kind of like that, actually.
And what Terry Eason? I like him if he plays, obviously.
Yeah, and the good thing is if he plays, like, you know what you're getting. It's going to be somewhere between 18 and 22 minutes. That's it.
Right.
We can't expect any more. LeBron's in. And Aiden's in.
Yeah, so I'm going to probably have to do something with those Orlando things.
Yeah, I think we have to.
Our projections.
I just think that, like, on this, it still feels thin, though. It's going to be, like, a lot of ownership, though, because, like, everybody's going to be reacting right now.
Yeah, Sabersim still has Isaac with the projections, so I have to.
I've got him. For some reason on mine, it's not got him with one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's got Wagner projected like 5.2. Like, honestly, these days, guys.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I just saw it.
5x is good enough. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate the kind words. I'm gonna get out of here as well, Sheets, and we can finish up our stuff. Good luck, and then hopefully, if things are going well, I'll see you at 11. If not,
I'll see you. I'll be there at 11 anyway.
All right, sounds good, bud. I'll see you soon.